Welcome back, Mercenaries. Today we are going to be doing a Battlefield 6 beta review. This will be more so of the sorts like a pre-review of the Battlefield 6 upcoming title. Now, our last video about Battlefield 6 was mostly just a commentary and first impressions of what we felt about the game. But today here we're going to actually have a complete review and breakdown Battlefield 6 title, which should be able to hopefully give us some insight as to the trajectory of this game upon release later this year. Before we go any further, let's take a moment to realize that the game is still in its testing stages, hence beta. There is plenty of time for changes to be made and implemented in the final product. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started. This segment of this video, we will be speaking about the game modes that are playable within Battlefield 6. In the beta stage, we have Conquest, Breakthrough, King of the Hill, Domination, Squad, and Team Deathmatch, as well as Rush and Escalation. Also, closed weapon game modes for those who want more of a traditional style of play. So far, for me personally, I am very much enjoying the new additions to the Battlefield 6 universe. Battlefield traditionally has always had a focus on a milsim style, real-time, large-scale orientation to its combat. It is nice to see smaller party-sized game modes being introduced in the series and being introduced and done well. Also unlisted here, there is going to be a Battle Royale being introduced into the series when the game releases. That in particular, I am especially interested in seeing how that is going to play out, which we will also cover upon when the game is completed and delivered to us. Next, we're going to speak about the maps. And so far, every last one of these have been an absolute banger. They are awesome, they are well detailed, amazingly visually appealing, perfect amount of colors, dark and contrast, easy to navigate, as well as fairly easy to recognize. Larger maps tend to usually take a bit longer for the average player to become more familiar with. However, these maps are quite fun, they are very engaging, and they have plenty of points of interest for you to be able to maneuver you and your squad to victory. It must be said that I just cannot absolutely stand is how a lot of these maps for so-called serious first-person shooters, they have these goofy, cartoonish, cel-shaded colors that I just cannot stand and do not belong within such an environment. Battlefield 6 has done away with that nonsense with these maps, and they are perfect. I absolutely love the feel of these maps. They're visceral. This looks like a war zone. This is a war zone, and you're in one. Forward for our next topic, we're going to be discussing the classes in Battlefield. So as we see here, we have the traditional Assault, Engineer, Support, and Recon, as we always had within the Battlefield franchise. Now, while certain specialties and weapons have always been locked to particular classes, and they do give us the option to still be able to maintain that integrity, they now have been able to allow for mild customization options with each of these classes. Each of these classes also comes equipped with some sort of special ability, if you will, a super move, if you like. And this can be achieved by achieving a certain level of performance within in-game. Once you've met the certain criteria or the level, you're then able to activate that special move. For example, with the support class, your reinforced objects receive 50% less damage, or something along those lines. I cannot recall so immediately. This is odd to me because I never recalled this being a thing in the series. I don't know if anyone else has helped me out, but I do believe that they took that from Delta Force, as we all know that Delta Force tried to basically be a knockoff Battlefield 6. Maybe they introduced this as a way to try to win over other player base. I'm not too sure. And now, while I am someone who is personally against these hero shooter models where after a certain amount of kills you get level ups and power ups, I think that's really corny. I will say that these are somewhat within the realm of realism, and they're not too bad. That being said, the change of the new introduction of these wild cards, if you will, are pretty fun. It's different. It's not, in my opinion, traditional Battlefield, but it's introducing something new without taking away from the core identity. So, I personally won't be too harsh of a critic on that. And gentlemen, we're going to cover the weapons of Battlefield 6. So, it is reported that there will be a total of 52 weapons for Battlefield 6. If you are staying on top of the Battlefield labs or the Reddit leaks, but here we are. I must say, this is an impressive, natural, organic list for what we are given, especially compared to Battlefield's 2042, which only gave us 22 throughout its game's life cycle. 52 weapons, original of design, and not recycled. This is definitely a big plus. As I stated in the commentary video last time, I was very disappointed with the customization options. However, again, this is a beta and this is subject to change. So hopefully in good faith, they have more options. They have less penalty for equipping the options, because I don't like the cap on the options that you're allowed to equip as well too. I don't like that. That gives a very debilitating blow to the potential for what you can do here in this game. Also, seems to come across as if they're copying Call of Duty. I don't like that. Besides the possible potential releases, we have currently in the active pool, or speaking of in the beta, ARs, SMGs, LMGs, snipers, pistols. We have secondaries of carbines, as well as other various weapons, and utilities, which would consist of your rockets, grenade launchers, anti-personnel mines, things of this nature. That's a brief overview of the weapons in general as to what's to come, what to expect, what arsenal we have to use when we're deployed on the field. I want to dive further into that and speak about the mechanics of the game itself. And while we're starting off with the in-game mechanics and the weapons, which just previously mentioned, I am going to talk about how I dislike some of them so far. In particular, the shooting. The shooting mechanics are atrocious for some of these guns, namely the ARs, in my opinion, and the SMGs. I don't like them. They introduce the same exact thing that Call of Duty does with their guns, and it is preset recoil patterns. I do not know what the fixation is with these new games these days and putting them on top of weapons, but it needs to go. Older shooters, better shooters, classic shooters have had no such thing. Recoil mitigation was indeed a factor. It was based on how well you can control the rifle, and not so much upon what the developer feels his favorite gun should be or what the flavor of the month weapon will be. Because as we know with a lot of these popular titles, the meta are always being subject to change depending on who at the top feels that they want their gun to outperform others for that month, that week, or in some cases that year, with the way that a lot of these developers do not tend to their game. This for me is a problem, and it gives Battlefield 6 a completely different feel from what it originally intends to. That for me is what I have to say for your mostly rifles when performing ADS or aiming down the sights. Some of the patterns and the kicks on the weapon are too strong, it's too ridiculous, and also following with current trends, you have to use attachments to make your gun feel as if your current operator, your character, is a competent shooter. To further that, as I stated with the weapons and their attachments, your attachments, depending on your rifle, are going to play a huge part with your success with your firearm. Your attachments are going to help with its performance. You currently have a system very similar to that of Call of Duty when it comes to your weapon customization, sadly. You are given a total of 100 points. Various attachments have various numeric values. If you get towards 100, then you are at your maximum limit. You cannot go over 100 when it comes to your customization options. Very similar to how, let's say, Call of Duty has a maximum of 5 attachments or 8 if you do the perk. Last I recall, this was never a feature within the Battlefield series. New weapons within the Battlefield series of games truly had unlimited options when it came to customizing your layout. This is a huge no to me when it comes to in-game mechanics and the customization aspects of it. That needs to be done away together. I hope that in the release of the game, they completely renege on this when it comes to customizing weapons. Hip firing is very good in this game. The reticle is tight. The bullets seem to shoot appropriately within the reticle. They don't have a ridiculous, unrealistic spray pattern, let's say in games like Counter-Strike, for example, making hip fire a viable option in close quarters combat, which I truly do enjoy. In some strange cases, your hip firing will be more accurate than your aim down the sight. So that is a huge win for hip firing within the shooting mechanics, and I think that wraps up about shooting mechanics in particular. The melee and the close quarters aspect of the game. So they have the assassinations feature, which if you get close to an opponent with their back turned, you can initiate an instant kill. Very realistic. A knife to the throat will pretty much end the combat situation. However, with melee, it is a couple of slashes, I think, outside of that parameter. It's useful, it's realistic, and it's balanced. So I like it. The melee combat is viable. It's a viable option. It's not too weak in, let's say, certain games like Counter-Strike or Call of Duty, where you're having to knife somebody 5-6 times, which in many situations in that distance is more deadly than a gun or a bullet itself. So that's a plus, thus adding further realism to the Battlefield series, and Battlefield 6 in particular. I feel as if content creators do not cover close quarters combat enough when it comes to that particular style of play in shooting games. The goal is to obviously win, and if you can close that distance, that's your fault. If you fail to be able to check your corners, to be able to do your peeking, to have that level of situation awareness, if someone can be able to encroach on you that close to be able to take you out with a blade or an SMG or a pistol for that matter. I like to be very balanced and always try to include that in all of our game reviews, because there are individuals who are experts at playing close quarters. There are individuals who are experts at sniping. Once you get within a certain distance of them, they're completely useless. They seem to lose all functionality if they cannot be able to maintain that distance. This is why I included melee and close quarters combat within the review, and why I do so in general. Another point which I forgot to touch with is I noticed that the first half of the beta, the weapons felt appalling. The recoil patterns were bad, but they did seem to mitigate them somewhat within the second half. And damage as well. I noticed that it just felt very tiring trying to down an opponent. It felt very Call of Duty-like. The bullets felt like Nerf darts. I'm shooting someone 16 times center mass. Nothing seeming to work here. So I think that they did listen to the feedback here in the first half of the beta, implemented changes, and it feels much, much better. So this I will say for that. I think they need to do a little bit more fine tweaking. Up the damage values on some of the rifles and the SMGs, and we have ourselves a perfect game here. Because the mechanics are great, even with the introduction of these spray-like patterns, right? But that prior squishiness when you're in an engagement is really what killed it for me. It gave it as if it was a duplicate feel of Call of Duty with just, I guess, a little bit more drop of masculinity, you know? And no, this is Battlefield. We're not here to review anything else but Battlefield, but they're making a game similar to their competitor. So hopefully upon release, this gets fine-tuned and it will be the 10 out of 10 game, which I know this can be. I also failed to mention the shotguns. The shotguns feel wonderful. They are beautiful in Battlefield 6, and that's one thing I just love about the Battlefield 6 community, man. We gatekeep because we do not want our game to be pussified or to be changed, and I love that. Like, most people don't even understand. A shotgun is lethal within 50 feet, as in will kill, and for some reason, it's like after 10 feet, they turn into airsoft pellets in most games, not even that. So it's so great to see a shotgun being useful again. especially as a close quarters option. They're a fun tool. They're great. I mean, and then they're variety. Who would not want to mix things up and to try something different? The snipers do need improvement, however. Having to two-shot people with a fucking 308 cartridge, and it's like, what the fuck, man? You're supposed to be dead. Like, you know what I mean? Anything with that caliber, the chest up, you're guaranteed gone. Even if I hit you in the arm, just blood loss alone. So that's one thing I will say I dislike about modern era of gaming. They have this fixation with nerfing snipers for some reason, and it's high risk, high reward, especially a bolt action. If you miss your shot, you expose yourself, and that's it. Um, However, if you do hit your opponent with the skill it takes to be able to mitigate the sway, right, you're rewarded with that shot. I mean, honestly, a sniper anywhere in the body, that's a bad time. So I don't know. I don't understand the hate for sniper rifles. They definitely have something with sniper rifles. You can clearly see in the game. They even added the optic glint. I don't know why they did that. They've never done that. So again, this is why I'm mentioning Call of Duty in the later half of this video, because you can see the comparison. They're trying to introduce Call of Duty style mechanics to grab Call of Duty players, and this needs to go away. I do not like it. It needs to stop immediately before you kill the identity of this game. So please, if you're hearing this, EA, get rid of that now. Other than that, we covered basically the majority of what is to expect here. The weapons, the guns, the classes, and the maps. Other mechanics are like such as sliding and diving. Those feel actually very realistic. He does an immediate prone nosedive down instead of like how you would say other games where they kind of do like a leaping arc over, exposing you. So that's a plus. The running feels great. You run faster the lighter weapon that you have equipped. Classic battlefield vehicles being introduced. Once more, they feel wonderful. Buildings are destructible. Man, I lost my absolute mind when a building fell down on me because it felt great. It was so cool. It was so awesome. I love destructible environments, and that is here to stay, and it is back. Bullet penetration. Yes, you're actually shooting through houses and doors as bullets tend to do so. A magical wooden door isn't stopping a 7.62 traveling at several thousand per feet a second, unlike most other games. And it feels great that this game feels like a war game. I have crouch running in here too, maintaining a low run, good for evading fire while maintaining momentum. And the utility usage here in this game is great. It's perfect. Your grenades actually kill within radius. I love that as well too. That would really be about it for this review here. I absolutely love the beta so far. Cannot wait for the release of this title. The only thing I would have to say is, get rid of the COD-like implementations that they're trying to introduce. Get rid of the damn battle pass, and yeah, they've made much better improvements for the first half of the beta. With that being said, that concludes our video. I hope with what we said here can give you an informed decision on what you would like to do in regards towards purchasing the Battlefield title. Till next time.